All right, let's just jump right into it. Today, in this explainer, we are tearing into something absolutely fascinating. We're going to break down a 500-year-old mechanical blueprint for acquiring, holding, and expanding power. I'm talking, of course, about Nicolo Machiavelli's masterpiece, The Prince. But we're not just doing a history lesson here. We are taking these centuries-old strategies and translating them directly into modern arenas. So let's dive in and see how these timeless gears actually turn.
First things first, we've got to shatter this massive societal illusion. You know the one. Society teaches us that power is basically a reward for being a good person. The idea is, if you just put your head down, work hard, and play nice, authority is naturally going to flow to you. Well, Machiavelli says that is a fatal flaw in logic. Power is definitely not a cosmic reward. Power is a mechanical construct. It operates on strict, unfeeling rules, kind of like physics or engineering. And the kicker is, once you understand the machine, you can operate it.
And honestly, this quote brilliantly illustrates the core dynamic of that machine. You are either acquiring it, holding it, or losing it. There is no middle ground. Power is literally never static. So today, we're decoding the first 11 chapters of The Prince to show you exactly how to take over a department, a competitor's business, or a political seat, and, most importantly, how to permanently keep it so nobody can ever take it back.
Okay, moving into Section 1, Inherited versus Acquired Power. This is basically your hierarchy survival guide.
So Machiavelli breaks down all power structures into essentially two buckets, republics or principalities. For our modern context, just think of a principality as any hierarchy where one single person is in charge. Now, the contrast in difficulty here is night and day. If you inherit your position, say you get promoted into a super stable department, or you take over a family business, your job is actually pretty simple. The main rule? Maintain customs. Just don't break what your predecessors already built, and you'll survive. But acquired power, stepping into a totally new, newly acquired arena, that is incredibly hard. Why? Because to establish your new authority, you inevitably have to offend people. The expectations are dangerously high, and disappointment is practically guaranteed.
Which brings us to a, pretty harsh Machiavellian principle, extinguishing the bloodline. Just a perfectly normal Tuesday in 16th century Italy, right? But seriously, when you step in and acquire new territory, people usually welcome the change, hoping it's going to better their lives. But they quickly find out that things actually get worse under restructuring. Because of that inevitable resentment, you have to act decisively. Machiavelli wrote that you must remove the old regime entirely to prevent them from plotting against you at the very first sign of weakness.
Let's translate that ancient rule into our modern reality. Imagine a corporate merger where you just acquired a rival company. The old rule was extinguish the bloodline. The modern reality is more like fire the old loyalist management. You absolutely cannot just walk in, try to be everyone's best friend, and leave the old, loyal managers sitting in their current positions. It's a fatal restructuring error. If you don't clear out the old guard, their loyalty to the past is going to become the exact weapon they use against your future.
That takes us to Section 2, the decentralization trap. Let's talk about assessing your target.
Before you make a single move, you absolutely have to assess the existing structural layout of your target, because that layout determines exactly how easily the target can be conquered and, more importantly, held. You have to figure out, is your target Type A or Type B? Type A is highly centralized, a prince and his servants. Basically, everyone answers directly to one absolute boss. Type B is decentralized, a prince and his barons. Now, these barons hold their own power, they run their own departments, and they command their own loyal subjects within the organization.
Here's how the mechanics break down. Type A, that centralized system, it is incredibly hard to infiltrate. You literally can't bribe anyone because everyone relies directly on the top boss. But once you defeat that boss, the whole thing is yours. It's super easy to retain. Type B, on the other hand, is a total trap. It's really easy to infiltrate because you can always find a disgruntled baron or some ambitious VP who's ready to betray the leader. But once you actually take over, it is an absolute nightmare to retain. Those exact same independent barons are going to constantly rebel against you.
And Machiavelli does not sugarcoat how you have to handle a decentralized group of free-thinking, self-governing people. Quote, "There is no safe way to retain them otherwise than by ruining them." I mean, it's brutal, but it's the truth. If you take over a team that is totally used to independence and you don't dismantle their old systems, they're going to use the rallying cry of their ancient liberty to rebel at the very first chance they get. You literally have to break the old machine to build yours.
Now for Section 3, the armed prophet, skill versus luck.
This brings up a really fundamental question about where your power actually comes from. Did you rise up by your own valor and skill, or did you just rely purely on luck and someone else's money? Rising by your own skill brings us directly to the innovator's dilemma. Introducing a totally new order is basically the hardest task in leadership. Why? Because you automatically make fierce enemies out of everyone who thrived under the old system. Meanwhile, the people who might actually do well under your new rules, they're only lukewarm defenders. You are essentially standing all alone, trying to push a massive boulder up a hill while your coworkers are actively trying to trip you.
See, human nature is incredibly variable. It's super easy to persuade people at first, but keeping them persuaded, that's a different story. This requires you to be what Machiavelli calls an armed prophet. An armed prophet is a leader who possesses the actual leverage and force required to enact their vision when mere persuasion inevitably fails. You have to have a mechanism of enforcement.
The difference here is absolute. The armed prophet has the force to make people believe, and because of that, they conquer. The unarmed prophet? They're just a visionary with zero leverage, and honestly, they get destroyed. In our modern time machine translation, think about it like this. A visionary CEO without the actual power to fire anyone is an unarmed prophet. A politician with brilliant ideas with zero legislative leverage is an unarmed prophet. Eventually, persuasion just fades away, and without leverage, you are finished.
All right, Section 4, the proper use of cruelty. Let's look at the mathematics of severity.
When looking back at the sheer ruthlessness of certain historical figures, take Agathocles the Sicilian, for example, a guy who literally slaughtered his way to an empire. Machiavelli coldly points out a vital mechanical rule. If severity is absolutely necessary to secure your position, there are strict rules you have to follow. It's practically mathematical. Injuries ought to be done all at once time. If you have to use severity, you cannot draw it out. If you do, you're going to live in constant anxiety, perpetually holding the knife, and your people will deeply, deeply hate you. You've got to secure your position swiftly and decisively.
To put that into perspective, imagine you have to execute a 20% staff layoff to save a failing business you just took over. According to this strict Machiavellian rule, you must execute those severe actions in one single terrible afternoon. You absolutely do not fire one person a week for 20 weeks. Dragging out that kind of pain completely ruins morale, it kills productivity, and it makes you look like an absolute monster in the eyes of everyone who survived the cuts.
So, the procedural steps for managing this kind of fallout are incredibly clear. Step 1, strike your blow all at once. Step 2, finish it entirely so you never, ever have to return to it. And Step 3, spend the rest of your tenure distributing benefits slowly. Understanding these raw mechanics is literally the only way to execute harsh decisions effectively without destroying your own foundation of power.
And this quote right here, it captures the brilliant psychological leverage behind the whole strategy. Injuries tasted less offend less, and benefits given little by little last longer in the mind. Think about it. If the pain is swift and sudden, the shock eventually wears off. But if you drip-feed rewards, praise, and benefits over a long period of time, that positive reinforcement really takes root. It lasts way longer in the minds of the people you're leading.
So, we've broken down the mechanics of acquiring power, neutralizing old regimes, recognizing structural traps, and managing severity. It's a brilliant, somewhat brutal, 500-year-old survival blueprint. But the single most critical takeaway from this entire explainer rests entirely on your shoulders. I want you to evaluate your own position in your career or your organization right now. Are you an armed or an unarmed prophet? Do you actually have the leverage to execute your vision, or are you just sort of hoping people will keep agreeing with you? Think about it.